Welcome back to the GOAT District. Back here with my man Dan Williamson, the overhyped sleeper. We had an awesome talk with Mike Shope on Monday, and Dan, now we're sitting down with a GOAT District regular, CHRiS Vaccaro of the Athletic and the NFFC Hall of Fame. How you guys doing today?
Oh,
fantastic! Great, yeah, fantastic. The stress of the regular season is over, and we can have some fun with these playoff contests now, guys.
Exactly. I'm fired up for today, fellas. Let's get after it.
GOAT District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's a... And I always be trading. And I always be trading. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
So we've had CHRiS in the GOAT District many times at this point. All the shows have just been fantastic, but this one's a little fun. Like CHRiS mentioned, this is any way you want to look at it. The postseason contests are awesome. We all love playoff football. Playoff football is kind of like, if you're an NFL fan, if you're a fantasy football fan, this is like the best time of the year. You also have the fact that if you had a very successful fantasy season, maybe you're riding some of that money on the postseason contest. If the season wasn't so successful, hey fellas, 150K sounds like a pretty nice bailout. Although Dan and I already chopped it up. CHRiS is getting his 50K out of his today. But Dan and I will chop it up with JD and Andrew. So we get a little less of a cut, but it'll still be good. Dan, you played this contest for how many years now?
I've just played it for 2 years now. This was one I kind of came late to. So, first year I was definitely feeling my way through it. Last year, I think I had a better idea of what I was doing. I didn't get my brackets right, as far as like what I thought was going to happen in the playoffs. So, if you miss that, you're going to miss. It is pretty much the way it works.
Yeah, and CHRiS, the NFFC, you've had tremendous success over the years. The postseason Hold'em is a unique contest that they run. How long have you been participating in it? And have you had any close runs with the top of the leaderboard?
Yeah, since day one, guys. I've been playing since the first year the contest was created. And like you guys said, it's fun to, once the stress of the regular season is in the rearview mirror, we all love the NFL playoffs. It gives us more skin in the game here, fantasy-wise, to, strategize this contest. And I love it. It really is a lot of strategy that goes behind this. We'll get into this over the next hour. It's fun, and I enjoy it, and I've been playing it since day one. And I believe one time I got a top 10 finish, but other than that, middle of the road. It's it is a tough contest to win.
Yeah, and it seems like the sort of contest where you can really cover up a lot of ground in that final Super Bowl weekend, and also the AFC Championship and NFC Championship. So I think it kind of differentiates itself in the fact that it's strategy every single week. Whereas, if you're drafting, DFS best ball or maybe one of the other high stakes contests, it's just different from this one. This, I feel like, is a real game theory. You have ownership percentages, but you also have, how am I doing the next round? Dan, is there anything that kind of jumps out to you in terms of the uniqueness of the structure?
Yeah, so sorry, I just had camera problems because I
Dan is
is that a younger picture of Dan when he was younger?
Yes, that's it.
Is that what that is?
Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew is actually Dan's little brother. You didn't know that?
There we go. Yes, that's exactly it. So let me fix up my camera here, and then we should be good to go. All right. So much better. So anyway, yeah, I think there's there's a few ways you can go about this contest, but I think before we get into that, Theo, let's just kind of cover the contest basics and what it is that you're trying to do, how it works, and so that people have a little bit more base to go off of if they've never really played this contest before.
Sure, no, absolutely. So I think that we have a lot of listeners who also play the FFPC contest. I think that the one of the main differences that jumps out to me is the tight end position is kind of minimized in this contest. You're starting out week 1 with 2 QBs, 3 running backs, 4 flex positions, a wide receiver, tight end, a defense, a kicker, and I think I'm missing one. No, that covers it, guys. So basically,
Theo, 4 wide receiver / tight end spots, not flex spots.
Oh, excuse me, wide receiver / tight end spot.
One flex.
Spoke on that.
Yeah.
So basically, the first week you can have 1 player per team. The second weeks you can have 2 players per team. The third week, obviously, 3 players per team. And when you get to the fourth week, the Super Bowl, you can have 4 players per team. So the other huge difference in this contest is the NFFC has a multiplier. So basically, the person that you start week 1 is a 1x. So the points are pretty cut and dry week 1. If you start Stephon Diggs in week 1 and he has 25 points, you have 25 points from it. The uniqueness of the NFFC comes from the multiplier on the following weeks. So if I started Stephon Diggs in week 1, he has 25 points, and he follows up with 20 points in week 2, you don't get 20, you get 40. Then the multiplier continues throughout, the NFC, AFC Championship week and onto the Super Bowl, where you can have a 4x in the Super Bowl. The years past, you've had major swings in this contest based on the Super Bowl itself, because the chance to start 4 guys where one of them's a 4x is definitely a massive advantage. Am I missing anything here, guys, in terms of the overall strategy, or is that pretty cut and dry?
I think that's pretty cut and dried. I think the other main thing I'd mention is that you can swap out players, as much as you want, basically. Though, obviously, you don't want to do too much swapping of players because you're going back to a 1x anytime you swap a player. But if your player gets injured, if Diggs makes it through 2 rounds and then he gets injured in the late in the second game, and the Bills are still alive for the championship week, you can swap out Diggs and you can swap in somebody else. So you have ways to go about that, and also any players that got knocked out for any other reason, you can swap those out. But pretty clearly with the multipliers consistently adding up, you never want to be swapping out players unless it's just an absolute must.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Chris, anything to share on basically the strategy itself, if anything that you see?
Strategy wise, I think most of us start at the top with the quarterbacks that we want to see meet up in the Super Bowl. And a lot of people go a lot of different ways in this contest. I like to split my 2 quarterbacks between, like I said, the AFC quarterback that I expect to make the Super Bowl and the NFC quarterback that I expect to make the Super Bowl, because it's nice to hit 4x and 4x from your quarterback, especially in the NFFC scoring, when you get to that Super Bowl game. And then you have, picked underneath that the right 3x wide receiver or running back to go along with it, so on and so forth. But, a lot of people do it other ways, guys. You'll see, some guys go 2 AFC quarterbacks in the beginning. And another strategy we can get into now is, something I've talked about in recent years is, 1 quarterback that you expect to make the Super Bowl right from the start, and then getting a quarterback here on opening weekend that you expect to lose, okay? And that you can see like having a good game. I'll just throw out a Daniel Jones. If you expect the Vikings to win, but Daniel Jones to have a nice 30, 35-point fantasy game, you could stick him in the opposite NFC slot, take his points, knowing that you're going to get rid of him, hopefully, bounce him out, and then replace him with just say, Jalen Hurts. So now you have your AFC quarterback, your NFC quarterback 4x, 3x, but you already banked the quarterback points. That allows you to get in a stud position player from one of those teams to start off with. So a lot of strategy. That's pretty much the main the main way I look at that.
Chris, maybe talk about just in general, because some people listening, maybe you're not familiar with the NFFC scoring. You're talking about quarterbacks are always valued a little bit more in the NFFC because of the 6-point passing touchdowns, and also the points per yardage are different than in some leagues. So do you expect this year that some of the most highly rostered players, at least from the get-go, are going to be some of these elite quarterbacks?
Oh, absolutely. I think what we saw in the regular season, how important these guys were, the Mahomes, the Allens, the Jalen Hurts, it's going to carry right over here into the postseason. And I think you see that huge gap between these elite quarterbacks here in the postseason compared to the bottom ones from a lot of these teams. So nobody's really going to be using them. Everyone's going to want to, ride these hot hands. And the best part about this contest this year, and it changes every year, is I think we all, are in like a little bit of a limbo here about who's going to the Super Bowl. And the teams that possibly can go to the Super Bowl have these big time quarterbacks, minus the 49ers with Purdy. But, I've heard over the last couple of days, a lot of people are on this Bengals back to the Super Bowl train. So you're going to see a lot of Burrow in this contest. You're going to see a lot of Allen, a lot of Mahomes. So in past years, there was just 2 or 3 teams everybody felt could go to the Super Bowl, and it was loaded up on that particular quarterback, such as a Mahomes last year, and then that didn't happen. And the guys with Burrow and the Bengals stacks were successful in this contest. So, yeah, I think the quarterbacks, the elite ones you're going to see, be the highest percentage owned here right off the gate.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's, like you said, it's interesting because last year you had a pretty clear-cut love of Allen and Mahomes. And this year I do agree with you. I think it's going to be Burrow. Those 3 AFC quarterbacks really, really stand out. Whereas you have arguably the NFC favorite. A lot of teams are not really going to be banging the drum for Purdy, trying to 4x Purdy. So it's pretty interesting. Dan, Chris brought up an interesting point about, trying to plan on those Super Bowl teams. When you're doing postseason contests in general, do you try to work backwards? Do you think that's your best strategy, is working backwards from the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I really do, because what you're looking to do is you're looking to have a kind of a cohesive story throughout the playoffs. Where every move that you make makes sense within that story. So you want to. I mean, you can do your brackets any way you want. You can say, I think these 2 are going to be the Super Bowl teams, and how are they going to get there, and work your way backwards, or you can work your way forwards on the brackets, and just say, okay, well, I think in week 1, I think these are going to be the winning teams, these are going to be the losing teams, and go on to the next bracket like that, which is the way I tend to like to do it. But then when I'm selecting players from those teams, I'm working backwards from the Super Bowl, if that makes sense. So, I first work my way through the brackets, figure out what my playoff scenario is, and then I start working backwards. Which players do I want to have in there, especially with this contest where you've got, the chance to have 2 players at a 4x multiple, right? So you want to do that. And, like you might think, you might look at, what happens if Eckler is playing against the Jaguars and you think he's going to go on to, for some reason you want to say they're going to be a Charger Super Bowl. You might think he's a good play against the Jaguars, but is that the play you want to make given who you want to have 4x'd in the Super Bowl? So
that's a very, very interesting one, and that was one of the questions that I had. I think that's a great way to start this off. Is we have a couple of teams who are clear dogs this weekend that really most likely are not going to survive the weekend. Seattle is close to a 10-point underdog against the San Francisco 49ers. Miami, despite their close games against Buffalo this season, is now looking like an overwhelming dog against Buffalo. Both teams are probably not going to survive. How do you approach these teams, guys? Are you looking to use maybe a defense, or are you trying to find that the number one guy that you think is going to just score, bank those points, and kind of move on when it comes to these losing teams?
Well, for me, it's interesting. You know, I think the first thing we think of when we think of like Miami or Seattle this week is like, all right, those are the two teams I'm going to fade and not use anybody from, and that's it. But I think the most important aspect of this contest that people overlook, and you know, it's interesting to me, I say this every year, is when you set up your team and your brackets and everything, and you put in your, just say, the 4 wide receivers and the flex spot, you could put them all in, you know, really nicely. But the only thing I could use from these two teams is if I want to use one of these receivers. Let's just throw out an example, Tyreek Hill. Okay. Now, do I think Tyreek Hill is getting to the second week? Absolutely not. But if I think he's in a position where he can get one good game out of him and then open up a spot in my wide receiver flex spot for the second week so I can then start hooking up my combinations, that's the most important thing in this contest to me that people overlook. Okay. I don't want the second week to come around and all four receivers in my flex spot are still tied up. And then I look up top and I have Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. And then I'm going, oh God, I can't get AJ Brown or Devontae Smith in here, you know, in the second week to start building out my Super Bowl run if I'm on the Eagles or any team to go forward. That goes for, you know, we could go straight down the list. So you kind of don't want to put in your best lineup right off the bat. You want to take some points, open up spots to guarantee yourself the combinations as you go along.
But so let's go back. You know, a quick point. If let's say you put Tyreek Hill in at wide receiver, and your plan is, okay, I'm going to take him out, you know, or he's going to be knocked out before round 2, right? Then let's say that somehow, some miracle, Miami ends up winning. Now you still got Tyreek in there. Do you have the option to still take Tyreek out of your lineup and forget about the 2x multiplier, or are you stuck with him until he loses?
You're stuck with him. There's no taking out your multipliers. Dan, I'm completely against that. And it's an option, right? But this is part of the contest, and the strategy is we have to plan out our brackets. It's the first thing I think we all do is sit down and go, all right, I like this team over this team opening week, and then the second week I know the matchups, and you plan it all out in your brain, and you need it to go pretty much according to plan to win this contest or to be in the running for it. The Tyreek Hill thing, though, if he makes it to the second week, you're stuck with the 2x multiplier.
Right.
And that's it. And that's just what it is.
You could still take him out of your lineup. If you said, you know what, I don't care about the 2x multiplier. I want to get AJ Brown in there instead. So you could still do
totally
that.
Can.
Okay. Yeah. So just trying to clear that up for our listeners so that they understand, you know, they do have complete ability to swap in and out. But you know, whether it's smart or not, that's another question. And I think, just to kind of piggyback real quick on what Chris was saying, you know, the ones that matter is there's going to be 6 players coming out of round 1 that you're going to carry over into round 2. You know, and not any more than that, because you can only have 1 player per team. There's only going to be 6 winners this week. So picking those teams that you're going to have, you know, you need to pick the 6 winners right, and then pick the right players from those teams. Everything else you have complete freedom on, you know, so it's not like some other contests where, you know, hard fades and soft fades matter a little bit more. You know, you can use a wide receiver from a team you think has no shot of advancing, like Miami, for example, you know, whereas in some other contests that would be a bad idea. So, yeah,
I think really one of the easier strategies kind of presented to us is kind of by Vegas this year, where you have multiple big favorites. Those are the kind of teams you want to dive into, and guys that you really think are going to last a week. We rarely have, you know, this many games with 6 points or more favorites. So I think that's interesting. Now, we did talk about the teams that we know are going to lose. Right now, we have one of the most interesting things to me will be Mahomes. How many teams just put Mahomes in the 4X week 1? I think it's going to be a lot, and I think there's a lot of people that are going into this tournament thinking, you know, I need Mahomes to potentially win it. The Kansas City, I think, makes the Super Bowl. I'm not sure we'll get Chris's pick later, but Mike Shope and Dan and I kind of shared our Super Bowl predictions the other day, and I think Kansas City going to the Super Bowl. What is your approach to the top seeded teams and how you would approach the 4X multiplier for the teams with buys?
It doesn't change, guys. I know that come week 2, I'm getting Mahomes ×2. So if that, just like you said, Theo, if that's your Super Bowl pick and you feel Mahomes is the way to go, and if you think they're going to the Super Bowl, you're going to want Mahomes. A lot of people are going to split it up. A lot of people have multiple entries in this contest. They're going to want to start off the contest with Kelsey, maybe. That's an option. See, I think that's a big part of this year's contest is there's so many of these elite teams that are split up that have great options. You know, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Joe Burrow with Chase, Mahomes with Kelsey. You could start off. You're leaving somebody off. You want to have that second week where you can get those, whatever one you took of those teams, back in the fold to open it up there. So, yeah, Mahomes, I think he'll be very highly owned, Theo, if people are thinking along with you with the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. But if that's my Super Bowl pick, then I don't care about not having him in week 1. You know, a lot of us want a quarterback that's playing right in the opening week that we think could get to the Super Bowl. But if Chiefs are my pick, Eagles are my pick, just say, then I'm putting Hurts in and I'm putting Mahomes in.
Dan, your thoughts on Kansas City in terms of Mahomes versus, potentially pivoting. And JD, welcome into the district.
Thanks for having me, boys. Thanks for. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I couldn't miss a double header, man. We got 2 huge shows today. Of course, I go to sign on, surprise you guys. I was supposed to miss the show and no sound, and I couldn't miss Chris again. I think I missed him last time.
You did, JD.
I love having you on, man. Every time I miss you, I regret it. So I'm glad you're on today. I'm pumped to hear what you guys have to say about this tournament. Let's win some money, boys.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Yeah, so if you get Mahomes, basically in the first round, if you have both Mahomes and Hurts as your Super Bowl quarterbacks, then you just want to take the 2 highest scoring quarterbacks from the first round because you're going to replace them, and start getting your multipliers on Mahomes and Hurts right away in round 2. But if you only have one of Mahomes or Hurts making the Super Bowl, then you want to pick whatever quarterback you think is going to oppose them as one of your quarterbacks for sure. The other one then would be whoever you think can come up with the highest score for you.
I think the other thing with this contest is, we're talking so much about quarterbacks here, but the other really popular pick to make the Super Bowl in the NFC is going to be the 49ers. And I don't think that anybody's going to really be on Brock Purdy. So this is a unique year where it's like, all right, it's either you pretty much have the Eagles or the 49ers coming out of the NFC, right? Sure, there'll be some guys that sprinkle in, a shot on Dallas to make it. And I don't really see much love on any of the other NFC teams to make the Super Bowl this year. So it comes down to the Eagles and the Niners. And this is one of those unique years where it's like, hey, I don't want the quarterback as a 4X from a team that I think can make the Super Bowl. So unlike all the other teams that we're talking about that can make the Super Bowl with the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Eagles. So that's the unique part of this contest this year.
No, for sure. And you guys, we talk about pivots. We often talk about pivots and being contrarian in these kind of contests. Do you think that what's the fine balance between kind of getting cute and maybe not taking the kind of chalk that you really need versus being contrarian, guys? I mean, it's a fine line.
It is, but there's certain teams right off the bat here that they could be one and done, and you want to get the right player at points out of that game. And I'll stare right at the LA Chargers here, like you just said, Theo, with Eckler. Now, I think Eckler is going to be very chalky as the Charger representative in this contest. But in a game like this versus the Jaguars with a Mike Williams questionable, we could see Keenan Allen hang a 30. And if you go that Keenan Allen route in week 1, you get his 25, 30 points, and they somehow lose, and you get to replace him, and Eckler has an average game, 13, 14 points. That's a big leg up right there. So those are the contrarian plays I'm looking at right off the bat. You know, the guys that you expect to be 75% or higher owned, that you can make one little switch, and for one game you can get outscored. You can make that call and get an outscored, you know, Eckler with that. Dallas, same thing. You know, I could see Dallas losing to Tampa on Monday night, or vice versa. That's going to be the big game, I think, this opening week, that everyone's like, it's a toss-up. We have some teams that we expect to definitely move on, but that Charger-Jaguar game and the Viking-Giant game and the Dallas-Tampa game, those are the three games that we need to make the right calls on, I think, in this contest to have the most success going forward. So Godwin, Evans, you make the right call there if you're slotting those guys in. Big leg up. And, you know, with Dallas, we could go any which way. In Dallas, you could go Lamb, I think will be mostly the highest represented Cowboy there. But if you switch to a Pollard or Zeke, just say, in the backfield, and they have that 2-touchdown game on the ground, that's big as well. And it's interesting, this contest this week with running backs. And that's why the NFFC actually switched the rules in this contest a couple years back. It used to be 4 running backs and 4 receivers. And now they dropped 1 running back because running back position's drying out, especially when the playoffs hit. And they dropped it down to 3 running backs and 4 receivers and a flex. So you could possibly go 5 receivers with 3 running backs.
Stick with what Chris mentioned. Chris mentioned these tight games we really need to nail this weekend, Dan. One of those teams that has a very tight line is your Minnesota Vikings against the New York Giants. It's going to be a great game.
Oh.
Which way do you think the percentages are going to go in terms of, like, is Justin Jefferson going to be one of the chalkiest guys all weekend long? Is there potential? You have to weigh. How are you weighing Justin Jefferson baking the points versus potentially being contrarian?
Yeah, so if I think that the Giants are going to win, then I'm a lot more likely to go contrarian on that one. You know, just because I think there are a couple other ways you could play it. You could play it through Hawkinson. You could play it through Dalvin Cook. I mean, you know, Dalvin Cook has gotten some decent scores even in losses. So, you know, if you go into it with the idea that, you know, hey, the Vikings are going to lose, and I think that there's a chance that you know, the way the Giants win is they're going to say Justin Jefferson is absolutely not beating us, and we don't care who else does. You know, if that's the way that you see that matchup, then you have to take somebody other than Jefferson, and you know, that's how you kind of differentiate yourself.
It's hard for me to stay away from Jefferson in that game just because I think the line is the slight favorite. So if Minnesota wins and I could potentially have a 2x Jefferson, it's kind of like a double-edged sword where the only way I see Minnesota win, I think it's going to be a difficult game for Minnesota. You predicted a 1-point loss for the Vikings, to be self-deprecating as a Vikings fan. I predicted a 1-point win for the Vikings. I'm hoping the Giants have a cover, but I do think Minnesota wins by a point. So either way, both of us are kind of on a close game there.
It's actually the highest over/under, which is surprising, with 48. So it goes to show that.
For sure. I think that's a great point, JD, and that's, you know, Chris brought up like Danny Dimes, using him as contrarian play. You know, trying to get those quarterback points, even for a team that's been eliminated. But I do think Jefferson's kind of a double-edged sword because I don't want to leave those Let's say it's the only way that they hang in, I think, is Jefferson has a game. Not necessarily the greatest game of the year, but I think he's going to hang a 20-pointer. So It's hard for me to kind of leave the 20 points on the board where I'm going against all these teams. They're going to have a 2x Jefferson in week 2. So that's kind of a really tough one. Kind of stick with the Giants here, Chris. Do you see a lot of love for Saquon this weekend?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a little connection problem the last couple of minutes, but
you're good.
I heard you. You got me now? Yeah,
you
cut out for a couple of minutes there. Theo, what'd you say? Saquon?
Well, Saquon, basically your thoughts on how do you think the field is going to approach Saquon? You mentioned Danny Dimes, a potential sneaky play this weekend. How do you see people approaching Saquon? Dan, why don't you take this one while we wait for Chris?
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I think there's a couple different ways you play it. And, again, I think it kind of depends on if you think the Giants are going to win, then probably Saquon is your play. if you think that the Giants are going to lose, then that opens it up to doing some different things a little bit, So, I tend to just kind of in all these situations, the team that's going to lose, I'm looking to get a little bit more off the chalk. Not every time, but at least a couple times I want to get off the chalk because that's how you're going to differentiate yourself from other
Do you have
teams
a preference
that also
with
got it
position,
right.
Dan? Do you have a preference with position? The reason I ask is I don't know if you guys remember, but tonight we have Daigle on, and he talked about last year the teams that were the possible surprises in the first round and could give you those 2 surprise round. That running back was key to get that, especially the workhorses getting the 20+ touches. Maybe Chris as well. Like, do you have a position that you like to start with for those type games, or are you just going like Dan is talking about, staying away from the chalk?
No, just to touch on the Saquon, I in this contest, I can't see using any other Giant in this game, and Saquon's locked in. And I think when you look at this contest, the running back position, there's really only 4 or 5 guys that opening week you can use. And more importantly is if these guys get eliminated right off the bat, just say a Saquon or an ETN or an Eckler, either way in this game, who's coming in to replace these guys the second week? All these big teams, the Chiefs, the Bills, even the Eagles. Like it's going to be really interesting to see who's getting replaced with these in the running back slots. I'm glad they took one spot away of these running backs in this contest because it's going to be really difficult to see. You might throw out Mixon to me, but I don't think any of us want to use Mixon right off the bat, especially in this game versus the Ravens, especially when you have Burrow, Chase, and Higgins available to you. So, no, I'm not fading that running back spot too much, JD, to answer your question.
Stick with the running back spot. ETN, how do we see people approaching the Jacksonville Jaguars? Dan and I each picked the Jaguars to win this game. I think it'll be very close. Chris, I'm not sure. Who do you have winning Chargers Jacksonville?
I love the Chargers in this game.
So Chris,
I'm opposite you guys. Yeah,
I'm with you, Chris. I've changed the last couple of days. I think so too. I think they're going to surprise people.
Yeah,
so,
I just see I just see the Jaguars as a team that they won the division. They're not ready to win a playoff game yet. I think Herbert is that elite quarterback that's ready to win a playoff game with a lot of veterans, a Derwin James, a Keenan Allen. These guys have been there. I think they're ready to come into the playoffs here and win a game.
So do you go? Sorry, Chris.
So would you guys liking? I'm sorry, JD.
No, I was just gonna ask. Like, would you lean more to like a Zay Jones maybe off of Jacksonville if you think they're gonna lose and you want kind of that 1 week flyer, or are you just complete fade on them?
No, I could use whether it's Zay Jones or Christian Kirk if I'm playing that route of wanting to get a one and done player in from that team and get him out. It's going to be tough though, JD, because there's so many great wide receivers / tight ends that you want to get in right from the start here. I'll say this, strategy wise, and I wanted to say this earlier, guys, but one of the most important things in this contest here is, besides opening up your lineup for stacking, is you might say, well, how are you going to do that? Just like Dan said earlier with Tyreek Hill, what happens if he wins? The only way to do this and create your stacks is to put 2 guys in at the receiver position playing in the same game. Okay? That'll guarantee you the points from both of them, and one of them's out after the first week. So then you could start bringing in your, whether it's Chase to stack with a Burrow, Kelsey to stack with Mahomes. So if I was doing that, if I was putting in Keenan Allen, JD, in one of my receiver spots, I would stick in a Christian Kirk as a Jacksonville representative. So I know I'm opening up, a pathway for stacking.
And you're hoping it's a high-scoring game between the two, too, as well. So benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, fellas, Mike Sanders in the chat, a friend of ours, been on the district before, and a league mate of Chris and mine. Mike brings up team kicker. Team kicker and team defense are interesting because you do need to fill those slots, and I think sometimes that kind of tricks people up a little bit. What is your way to approaching kicker and defense? Start with maybe Dan or Chris on this one.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I'm probably least interested in getting my kicker and my defense right. You don't necessarily want to carry a defense or a kicker to the second week unless you think they're going to score really well both the first and second week for some reason, and because otherwise what you're giving up is you're giving up a wide receiver or a running back that you could be bringing across instead.
Yeah, 100%, Dan. That's the last thing I do. You don't want your kicker or your defense to keep advancing, and at the same time, you're eating up. If you use a kicker or a D, just say like San Francisco. We all want that San Francisco defense in this week, right, to score a lot of points, or just say a Buffalo defense to score a lot of points. But what do? You're not doing it at the expense of an Allen or Diggs or Kittle or McCaffrey. I mean, so for me, I think one of the most chalkiest players in this contest will be the Ravens kicker with Tucker. You're getting a great kicker. Nobody expects them to win. We just saw it this past week. You could see Justin Tucker in this game kick 2 or 3 field goals, give me the points, and get out of here. And then we start over again at the kicker position. But I think he'll be 90% owned in this contest.
And add that to the most recognizable name, so it's
sure.
It's kind of the easy go-to.
I was going to suggest Justin Tucker as our kicker tonight, but now I'm definitely not. I want to quickly touch on, we have the tight end whisperer as always, Dan Williamson in the GOAT District. Tight end is kind of devalued based on the options to pivot to wide receiver, and I think that the most NFFC players tend to be wide receiver drafters in general. Do you think that the tight end position creates contrarian plays for you? Maybe start with Chris on this one. Is it something to be careful about, or is it something you want to dive into?
No, I mean, it's definitely a way to be contrarian. We have some great tight ends in this contest this year. Like Dan said earlier, Hawkinson's a great pivot. Dallas Goedert is a pick. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of outs, but on these teams with these great tight ends, there's big time players. You're going to give up Hawkinson at the expense of a Jefferson. You're going to give up Kittle at the expense of a Christian McCaffrey. So if you're playing multiple entries, yeah, people are going to get a little, they're going to go a different direction. You're going to see some of these names. They're all going to be less than 5% owned. But if Hawkinson drops that 8 for 113 and 2 touchdown game right off the bat and gets eliminated, well, now you got a leg up on the teams, all the chalk of Justin Jefferson teams.
Yeah, Dan, you brought up Hawkinson as a pivot. Could Mark Andrews potentially be a pivot to the Justin Tucker chalk?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think and with every team, you've got certain decisions that you have to make. They're kind of inflection points, and for Baltimore, I think it's basically you're going to do one of 3 things. You're either going to do Mark Andrews, you're going to do the kicker or defense, or you're going to do a full fade. One of those 3 things. So you have to decide what do I think is the path to the most points between those 3.
So we're reaching almost 40 minutes in, and I want to take time with our entry to really take some time to put this together right. So the other night we had Mike Shope on, and Mike Shope revealed you can take it as far back as you want. You want to predict this weekend's games too, Chris, but we want to get your Super Bowl predictions, your AFC Championship, NFC Championship. Maybe you want to put those ones out there.
So I was all in on the Bills last year, and I got disappointed in that game versus the Chiefs, and I'm coming right back to them this year from this summer. And I'm riding the Bills bandwagon all the way again this year. And I love the fact that right off the bat, they're playing this opening week, and then they don't have to go into Kansas City if they make it that far. It's a neutral game, so it'll be in a neutral field. So I think this is the year everything surrounding the team. I think they make it to the Super Bowl. I think they meet up with the Philadelphia Eagles in that Super Bowl. So that's my Super Bowl prediction. I think the Bengals will win this week, get beat by Buffalo in the second round. The Chiefs will beat the Chargers in the second round, setting up that Bills-Chiefs rematch in the AFC Championship. And like I said, the Bills going. NFC real quick. I think the Vikings take care of the Giants, my Giants. I know everybody's on the Giants this weekend, it seems. I'm going the opposite way. I got the Vikings winning that game. I have Dallas beating Tampa, and the Niners beating Minnesota second week. San Francisco in Philadelphia for the championship game, and Philadelphia getting to the Super Bowl.
Sorry, Theo. Let me just ask Chris. Do you start with your bracket first, Chris, before you start your lineup? Okay.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
And JD, let's get your Super Bowl prediction because you weren't on with Mike the other day before we start filling out this thing.
Yeah, my Super Bowl predictions from early in the season suck this time of year because they're the most popular ones. So Cincinnati 49ers were basically my two teams going to the Bowl. So I'm going to have to either mix it up with the players I put in or the way I do my brackets or just change my Super Bowl. But I still like those two teams to go to the end. And then, of course, KC or Buffalo are the other AFC monsters.
And
guys, just real quick, Theo, I'm sorry, just real quick. I know we're talking about being contrarian here and everything, but I think this is the first playoff year in a long time that in this contest, I don't know how contrarian you need to be just because I think a lot of players have so many different opinions on who's going to the Super Bowl, and that's going to create average ownership. You know, it's not like last year when, like you said, everybody was on Mahomes. Now we have Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow going in the AFC, and everybody seems to be kind of split between these three teams, as well as the Niners and the Eagles and Dallas in the NFC. So you're going to see so many different ownership percentages split up between all those teams that I don't know how contrarian we really need to be. If you're all in on the Bills, you're all in on the Chiefs or whatever, just go that route. And I think you're going to be fighting up against a lesser percentage in this contest than we're used to seeing.
And I think, Chris, in these tournaments, the mistake is we try to galaxy brain too much, trying to go, opposite of the chalk. And you look at the winning rosters last year, let's say in the FFPC, I see those rosters and I think like there's not much of a, huge reach with regards to players that were on the team. A lot of those guys could have been considered chalk, but it's like a Rubik's Cube, right? It's the combination of those players that makes the magic happen.
Right.
Yeah. You got to be, like we said, we got to be perfect. And even if you want to take it to a DFS perspective or a best ball perspective, there's always going to be guys that every winning team is going to have, because there's a couple of chalk guys are always going to be the ones you need in your lineup. So like we talked about, it's like a balance of trying to get contrarian versus getting cute. And you want to be, a slightly contrarian, so your entry does not look like everyone else's, but you also don't want to get so cute that it's drawing dead, from the word go.
That's why it's so important this opening week to get the right to have the highest scoring player on these teams that could be one and done or whatever. Because as we go forward, everyone's going to have the Mahomes 4x, Kelsey 3x, Allen 4x, Diggs 3x. Those points are going to stay the same. But if you can outscore, the teams behind you with a Pollard over a Lamb as your Dallas representative, when you look up in the final week, that might be the difference right there.
Right.
That's a good point.
So let's put this together. We have an entry right now that we're ready to put together with the four of us. We're going to cut Andrew. Andrew, if you're listening, don't worry, you're getting your taste. But we are giving Chris his third, JD. So we're getting slightly less cut than our guest, but it's still exciting.
Guys, if that's a decision we get to make, I'll be a happy guy. You know what I mean?
Listen, we can pay Andrew how you see fit, guys. We can get him like a bunch of La Quinta gift cards or something like that.
Definitely La Quinta gift card.
La Quinta. I'm sorry, guys. I mispronouncing it.
Well, yeah, you're from New York. You're allowed.
I'm Americanizing it a bit. So guys, what are we doing here from the start? Let's why don't we have our guest go with the first QB pick here? Who would you want to go with here, Chris?
Are we going to do this as a contrarian type of roster, or how we going to play this out, boys? Just so I know.
We're looking to win this.
The winning roster.
Yeah, we want the winning roster. So we're going with with guys you feel confident in.
Well, let's start with Josh Allen.
Boom, done. All right, so we got Josh Allen in at quarterback. All right.
Now, which one do we want to go QB2 here, Dan? This is interesting because Chris brings up a guy that we think might lose this weekend, but kind of bank his points so we can get Hurts in for next week. If we want to go super contrarian, I like that Danny Dimes idea because of the Saquon chalk.
Yeah, I think you can go Dimes there. If you, yeah, I guess, and I guess if you think that that Hurts has got to be on the other side, you're not going to want to take an NFC quarterback that you think is going to advance necessarily. Because it's just
guys, this does get blown up. This strategy, and I've thought about it 100 different ways this contest, but this strategy does get blown up if the Giants beat the Vikings. Just so we're clear on this, you don't want Danny Dimes week 2, and if your Super Bowl plan is the Bills and the Eagles. You know what I mean?
I'll throw just one little more nugget on the Vikings. I am switching over. I think the Vikings are going to win this game. Reason being is I have scored some tickets to this game.
Oh yeah, Dan.
Yeah, last time I was at a Vikings playoff game was the Minnesota Miracle. It happened right in front of me, so
that's awesome.
I've got nearly identical seats this year.
Mortgage on the Vikings this weekend.
Yep.
Vikings money line for Dan in the house. Just one thing, Dan and Chris, we didn't go over before we lock in QB2. Last year, like Mike Leone, you did the pod with him. Leone had a Josh Allen, Mahomes build, and I think a lot of people went with that particular build, thinking I'm going to get at least one. Chris, is there something to be said with going 2 AFC QBs?
Theo, I don't advise it. If you went with a Mahomes and Allen again this year, just like that, you're dropping off. That means you're going to have a 1x Super Bowl. If these two meet up in the Super Bowl, one of them's going to the Super Bowl, the other one is out in the AFC Championship game. You got to start over at 1x. I'd rather build up my quarterbacks and have them meet up in the Super Bowl.
Right. So realistically, we're looking at an NFC quarterback here, and I think I think it's probably either Cousins or Jones, depending on who you think is going to win this game, since it's most likely to be the highest scoring, and there are players we probably want to use over Cousins on Minnesota.
Right.
You're eliminating Jefferson and Hawkinson. If we do that, I'd rather eliminate Saquon than eliminate one of those two.
Right.
And like you said, I think Saquon's going to be so chalky. There's this chance to be a little contrarian as well. So
could also go Tom Brady. That would be another way to.
Is Dak not an option, or is it just because you?
No, I think Dak's an option. But if you think Dallas is moving forward, then you probably want to have somebody different than Dak.
I'll say the Brady option. I'll say the Brady option I don't love, just because that means that we'll probably, if they did somehow win this game versus Dallas on Monday, and it's 50-50, just say, then he's most likely going to Philadelphia that second week. And now I got Brady in Philadelphia out in the cold, and I can't see him having more than a 15, 20-point game. I don't see an upside in that matchup. And then I lose my quarterback after 2 weeks, and he bombs in week 2, and I'm behind the 8 ball in that one.
Bucks would get absolute boat raced in Philadelphia, and we would potentially have such a low score. I want to vote. I put my vote in for Danny Dimes here, guys.
I'm with you guys. After the talk, I agree. If you want,
I like it. Nice and contrarian too. Danny Dimes will be less than 5% owned, so let's go that route and hope he's one and done. And Dan's Vikings take care of him.
Danny Dimes wins $150,000. That's a huge brag right there.
Right. Well, I can guarantee you there's no more certain bet than the Vikings making an opposing quarterback look good. So win or lose.
Dimes is going to get Daniel Jones is going to get his points this weekend, guys. I think that he's got that floor baked in. I think, like we all think, it's going to be a fun.
Hey, he won Pat $2 million, man. He can win us $150,000.
100%. Keep it going, Daniel Jones. Keep it going, Daniel Jones. So let's go running back. I think that there's one low hanging fruit here.
Eckler or CMC,
right, guys? Unless you want to go with Chris's Keenan Allen pivot. I mean, getting the Eckler points, win
I like
or
Eckler.
lose. This guy's going to drop 25 points.
I think CMC and Eckler are both going to find their way into this particular team here now that Barkley's out.
Yeah,
Right.
I think those are the two go-to.
All right, let's tentatively put both of those in. So we got
So now RB3 is interesting, guys.
right. So
It
we've got one guy from NFC, we've got one guy from the AFC.
Is there a particular type that you're looking for here, Chris? With what we've already put in, we've got two chalk RBs.
Yeah, in this particular setup here, guys, I would like to actually put in ETN, so we know that we have an ETN versus Eckler at a running back spot here. One of them is going to be bounced, and plus I like both running backs in this particular matchups against each other. I think they both can go for 20 plus.
Theo's really
I
working
don't
hard to
really
hold his
see.
smile right now.
Well, no, so I was going to say I love Chris's point, and this is 100% one of the why you're such a great guest for this, Chris, because my inclination was going to try to be Pollard just so we would get off the Lamb chalk, but I think actually having the head-to-head Eckler ETN matchup guarantees us a 2x with a guy that could drop another 25 next week. And then we do get to use the CD Lamb chalk, which might be, I mean, you're going to want that. It's hard to get away from CD Lamb. So yeah. I like your ETN call here, unless you guys see something else, JD and Dan.
My question is on this: is there, is because of the scarcity of running back, do we want to for sure knock one out this early? Like that we know for sure is going to be gone after the first round.
Well, Dan, to that question, I'll say who can you see making it pass? Like, so
McKinnon?
Barkley's in. Nah, we can't. You can't use McKinnon. That's a chief.
Right.
We need.
Right.
We need. Yeah, we're going to want a different chief. I feel like.
And
we're going to run into some
Chiefs this week anyway. So I think you're looking at. I mean, Dalvin Cook would be if we wanted to galaxy brain it and get off of Jefferson, that would be a possibility. Mm-hmm. Tony Pollard would be a possibility. If we think it's a coin flip with Tampa, another way to attack Tampa would be to go through Fournette, who has had some huge playoff games before. Where you at least have that possibility that you might be able to 2x all three of your running backs.
I think what's going to happen in this particular team that we're building here is we're actually going to want to see. I think the way it's going to play out is Dallas and Tampa players. We're going to want to play in a wide receiver / tight end spot together because we need to open up a spot to hook up with Josh Allen later to create a dig spot for next week.
So like a Schultz.
No, not Schultz.
Okay.
Let's get there, and then maybe you guys will.
But you like ETN as you're okay with just we're going to lose a running back and have to replace in the second round. Mm-hmm.
The only option I would say is like you said, Dan, Dalvin Cook in that spot is a decent option. Other than just because if you want to be contrarian against all the Jefferson ownership.
But do we want to be contrarian with Jefferson, guys? I feel like I'd rather have the Jefferson points and go.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just go ahead. I mean, we've kind of decided we're going to put in Jefferson, so let's just put him in.
Yeah.
We can always come back to this running back spot after we see how we're going to put together the rest of our wide receivers.
AJ Brown is becoming everybody's favorite contrarian play for some reason in Philly.
we have to wait till next week to play him here, but the other one I think that's kind of a slam dunk with the way that we're building our roster. I think you're either going to want to go Jamar Chase or T. Higgins in a wide receiver spot, right?
Yep.
We don't want to use Mixon. We don't want to use a kicker or defense, and we don't have room for a quarterback.
And I think people are going to remember Higgins in the playoffs last year. As much as you guys know Higgins is my boy, I think Chase might actually be the lower owned player. I don't know.
I think Chase will be higher owned, but I think there will be a lot of people trying to go, get off the chalk with Higgins.
Throw Chase in there then, no?
Yeah, let's throw Chase in there. And that was the other night with Mike. I said that Chase is the guy I think I think he could solidify himself as the 102 in redraft just based on I think he's going to have a hell of a playoffs this year.
Right.
So we're right now we filled 2 wide receiver slots here and 2 of our flexes technically.
All right, and
do we
then
want to go back to running back and just lock in.
Chris was talking about we wanted to get Dallas and Tampa in at the wide receiver spots.
So
you know what, guys, we're gonna run into a problem here. To be honest with you, now that I'm planning it out over here with that ETN pick, we might actually have to back up and sacrifice Jefferson for a Cook, or or stick in Pollard. See, that's what makes this contest so tough. Here's my point. Here's what I'm saying, guys. Kelsey's going to have a spot here, right?
Right.
Yes.
Kelsey's in. Jamar Chase is in. And we don't have an Eagle, right? So A.J. Brown's going to have a spot, correct?
Unless
we're gonna want to put in.
Is Sanders out of the question as the RB3?
I can't see using.
You can't put him in this week, JD. It's got to be teams that are playing this week.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry, guys.
We're gonna need an Eagle here.
So plug in Kelsey just so we have that out of the way, since we all seem to want Kelsey in there.
Yeah, we can't put Kelsey in this week though.
No, why not?
Because you get the 4x him.
Okay.
So
all right. So you're just gonna take the 0 here.
Yeah, because we get 2x in week 2.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bank that 0.
So we're gonna bank the 0.
Yep.
So does that mean we throw Evans in there?
I think Godwin if you're looking for a Bucs wide receiver, but let's cover RB3 here. Chris brought up Tony Pollard. I think Pollard's a nice way of playing it, guys. We were on that Lamb spot, but I think using Pollard fills RB3 and kind of gets around what Chris was talking about with using ETN.
All right.
Don't have to convince us with Pollard. I don't think. I don't know about Chris, but
no, Chris is on the Pollard train.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so we're gonna put in Pollard.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we figure out Tampa Bay Buccaneer here, guys?
I was going to look at that. Yeah.
We could get kicker out of the way and use Matt Gay this week.
Which receiver do you think's most owned? Tampa.
Godwin.
Yeah, Godwin. But all right, do we want? Okay, so we want to make sure that we have our 6 winners for this week, right? Are going to be. Let's just write those down so we make sure that we have 6 winners that are all going forward for 2x. So we say Josh Allen's going to be a winner. McCaffrey's going to be a winner.
Yep. Pollard's going to be a winner.
Well, Jefferson we said for sure will be a winner. Chase will be a winner. And then we're thinking about
who we got in as these
Eckler
3
would be a winner, and possibly Pollard would be a winner.
Yeah, that's the 3 receiver spots now that we have are what? Jefferson, because I can't see it too well.
Jefferson, Chase,
and Kelsey.
Okay, so let's put it this way: if Jefferson, who we believe wins, Kelsey is already advanced, and Chase we expect to win. That's 3 spots, right?
Right. So we want somebody from a losing team here.
We need a spot from a losing team in this lineup because we need to make sure we get Diggs in week 2 to hook up with Josh Allen.
Right.
So we go Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill we think could have the smash game.
I like that.
We get rid of the Dolphin, and we bank Tyreek Hill knowing that we can.
It's either a Hill or like a Lockett, you know?
I kind of like Lockett. I'll be honest.
Like I said, either Lockett or Hill, I think, are the 2 choices here. I think it depends on how you think that first game goes.
Yeah, with Skyler at quarterback, I think it's a little bit tougher for Tyreek. And not saying he can't get it done, he certainly can. But
that's a tough call right there.
Buffalo is pretty good against a pass, and if San Francisco has a weakness, they're a little bit more of a pass funnel than a run funnel.
Yeah, so I would make it come down to Lockett or Metcalf.
Okay.
So let's talk about Lockett versus Metcalf. Dan, you have the lean for Lockett. Christy, are you on the Lockett train, or you think this could be a DK game? It seems like a Lockett game.
I think I'd lean towards Lockett in this game also. You know, I
But is
expect
that
him to
a
play from behind. Can't
is
run on
that
the
a
Niners.
reason? Is that a reason to go DK? Because I feel like everybody's going to be on Lockett if they pick one of these receivers. No.
Well, I think we'll be contrarian enough with since we already have Daniel Jones, and not a lot of people will take the 0 in week 1 like we're going to do with Kelsey,
Correct.
which is that's also going to be kind of contrarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's put Lockett in there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Why don't we figure out? Do you want to just get team defense out of the way here, guys?
We don't have a Tampa Bay Buck, correct, in right now?
We do not.
So Tampa Bay Buck could be. Do you want to go kicker or defense and do it that way?
Well, the options are what? Baltimore, and Tampa. No.
No, you're right.
We have Baltimore, Tampa, Jacksonville is still an option for us.
I would go Tampa defense and Justin Tucker kicker. That would be my combination.
Theo got his Tucker. Hey, Tucker did well this year.
All right, so Tampa defense.
Gotta love Tucker.
Dependable. Yeah, I mean,
he's a legend. He's a legend.
Kicker. Yep, it's got to be Tucker. It's got to be the Jags kicker Patterson, or it's got to be Miami kicker Sanders.
it's also the lowest over under that Baltimore.
Definitely not Miami kicker. That could be a 0 because they're going to be chasing touchdowns the whole game.
Definitely.
It could literally be a 0.
If we're not gonna use a Jag at our flex, then I would go with Tucker, and I think it's probably going to be better, unless we want to use like Mark Andrews or get really galaxy brained with Isaiah Likely or J.K. Dobbins. Then I think we're probably wanting to use a Jaguar.
Yeah, I think a Jaguar is not going to find their way into this particular lineup, guys.
You don't think we'll use one for our flex because we still have a flex to fill?
No, that's AJ Brown. We don't have an Eagle.
Oh, okay.
That has to be AJ Brown.
All right, sorry, I missed that. All right, so we're taking the 0s with Kelsey and AJ Brown, and then for a kicker, I mean,
Chris, you don't think Devonta Smith is viable? Because I feel like
100% he is, Dan. Theo, 100% Devonta Smith is. That's a great contrarian play.
Do you want to get more contrarian and go?
Like Devonta could outscore him for the playoffs. It's kind of like
easily
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins last year, where T ended up overtaking him in the Super Bowl. It's up to you guys. I'm Mr. AJ Brown, but I do feel like if you want to get like a little contrarian there with our Eagle. You'd have that stack where if it all works out right, you end up with Devonta Smith 4x, Jalen Hurts 3x, and then we'd have A.J. Brown 2x.
Guys, there's no two better contrarian plays than Devonta Smith over A.J. Brown in this contest or T. Higgins over Jamar Chase in this contest. Because everybody, when you're setting up these lineups, those are your go-to guys. A.J. Brown as an Eagle if you're not using Hurts, and Jamar Chase if you're not using Burrow. But there's good options on these particular two teams that can make runs to the Super Bowl. And there's nothing that says that T. Higgins can't have 2 or 3 better weeks than Jamar Chase in this playoff season. And the same thing with Devonta Smith over A.J. Brown. So if you're going to be a little different, those are the two options to go with.
Okay.
So I think we go Justin Tucker.
Let's think about that kicker just a little bit more, though. All right. So odds the Ravens advance versus odds the Jags advance. Who is more likely to advance?
Jags.
Jags, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Jags.
Just look at the spread.
Who is more likely to score points this week? Ravens or Jags? Probably Jags, right?
Jags.
I think we go Jacksonville for kicker here, guys.
Let them cover everybody.
Dan, it is a great way to look at that, honestly. And then if they advance, you got your kicker 2x in there that you don't have to worry about.
And the opportunity cost isn't that huge with taking that Jacksonville kicker.
Right.
Okay, so I like this team. Just so everybody listening, since they can't see it, our team is now Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, with the thought that next week we pivot into Jalen Hurts.
Correct.
Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce, Tyler Lockett, Devonta Smith, the Jacksonville Jaguars team kicker, and the Tampa Bay Bucks team defense. We are not using a Baltimore Raven, and we are not using a Miami Dolphin.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah, I like the way that looks. And
Yeah.
you set yourself up with outs. Each, you created paths to everything we need here. As long as, as long as the Seahawks don't upset the 49ers, then we're good to build this team out, as well as the Giants don't beat the Vikings. Those are the two keys for this team's structure as we go forward.
And if that happens, we get 35 points out of Tyler Lockett, and we get that 2x on him this week. So we're running pure either way, Chris.
I like the way it sounds, Theo.
100%.
All right.
So if somebody's never done the NFFC playoff challenge, make sure you're going in after each round to make the adjustments and, add the guys and swap them out and do all that. Because if you're used to a playoff challenge where you just let it ride like a best ball, you're gonna be disappointed.
That would be a tough way to leave money on the table, guys. Be number one after week one and then not going down and find out.
But if it happens, send us a screenshot.
When it happens the most is after the AFC and NFC championship game, there's that 2 weeks lull. And I remember there was a year where it was like 2 days before the Super Bowl. And I said, oh, my God, I forgot to go in and put my lineups back together again for the Super Bowl. So do it right after the AFC and NFC championship game so you don't forget over that 2 week lull.
And I think we got, with that, I think we've got a couple of three, just real shorty Goat District episodes, 10 minutes or so, where we get together with Chris and we put in our players for the, next week.
Yeah, we can totally do that.
We have a good week. We're definitely we gotta run it back.
if you don't see us, our team's stunk.
It means Josh Allen lost or something like that.
Yeah, that means I'm lobbing in people and nobody cares. So
100%.
No, but I like it. I like this. It is contrarian. There'll be a lot of ownerships here that are very low owned, and I still think it's a team that can make a run here. So Pollard will be the key. If Pollard has a nice game, this team will look nice going forward.
And he's had some huge games this year, right? So.
Harkening back to draft season, Andrew, upon looking at this team, would say TTF.
Yep. I'm sure we'll have some saucier language tonight. We got a big one tonight. If you guys like this one with Chris, tune in later. We're going to do the same thing for the FFPC contest. John Daigle joined us last year for the FFPC contest show. We're excited to run it back. Andrew's going to be in the house. We're going to have a full Goat District. But this was awesome today, Chris. When are you guys recording again, you and Nando?
You know what? We're done for the season. We went through the regular season, and now it's the off season for us. So we'll be back next late July to kick off fantasy season and once again.
Nice.
We're looking forward to it, man. And are you doing some high stakes baseball or just for fun?
Yeah, I'll be dipping my toe in the baseball world of fantasy NFFC this year to get my butt handed to me, I'm sure. But you know what? It passes the time until we get going with fantasy football. Those winter months, baseball gets me through sometimes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
I love
Chris.
doing it, man. Yeah.
We love having you on, man. We always get excited when you're coming on, especially for the playoff challenge. Guys, make sure you stick around tonight. And if you're not signing up for both these tournaments, you're missing out. They're going to play with two different parts of your brain. There's different aspects to them, like we discussed today. I think us just going through the process and hearing how Chris thinks through some of these decisions is really going to help you guys. And tonight we have another huge monster guest with John Daigle coming in to help us from 4for4 football. So we got a lot to help you guys get that edge in these big money tournaments. Hopefully, if we don't win it, one of you guys wins it. But make sure you stick with us tonight, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, keep killing it, guys. You guys are doing great jobs every week, man. Love the shows. Don't miss any of them. And I know I speak for the whole fantasy football industry, all the high stakes guys. We love tuning in every week to you guys. So keep killing it.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Have a good day, guys. Enjoy your afternoons.
Got it.
Goat District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
It's a lot of fun, fellas.
Oh,
It's going to be really annoying.